man. It's too early to panic, but it is not too early to tell the truth. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and listen up. Because I'm going to put some things out there that need to be heard. And I hope the important people, I hope they're paying attention. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to talk about the Washington Commanders losing to the Atlanta Falcons in Week 4, 34-27, falling to 2-2 on the year. Jayden Daniels' return reportedly will be made against the Chargers next weekend, but that's a whole other week from now. And from what I just saw on that field, the team, specifically one side of the football, needs as much time as they can get to prepare for that game. We are about to dive into everything that happened in this loss against the Falcons as part of the 5 Names to Remember series. To anyone who does not know or is a new viewer here on the channel, first thing we're going to do is go over the game, what stuck out to me, talk about important players, important stats, and then the 5 names to remember. I'm going to give you 5 players, coaches, anybody involved in the matchup that dictated what happened and how it finished. That could be good, that could be bad, that could be ugly. You're going to have to wait until about halfway through this video. That's when we get started with it all. You're going to have to wait and see who the 5 people are. But this is my official reaction, guys, so make sure you do hit the like button. I got to be honest, sometimes it's not always fun coming here recording these videos after a tough loss. So hitting the like button shows me that you appreciate me and the content that's going out there. Maybe you don't like what happened out there on the field, because I certainly don't. But if you do like these videos, make sure you do hit that as well. And to the new viewers here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on daily uploads. Now let's talk about the game script here. So the Falcons chose to receive the opening kickoff, which said so much, because this is a team that is incredibly predictable. When they're in the pistol, 93% of their plays are runs. When they're in the shotgun, 77% of their plays are passes. We got that awesome graphic from I think it was Fox, from the Fox team who showed it. Everybody knew what to expect. Pistol is like the worst formation in football. I don't know why the Falcons are using it so much, but they come out and they're just dominating from the onset. And all I could think about, that really the first quarter of the game, as it became apparent what was going to happen, how this game was going to go, all I could think about was the Commanders' mic'd up video from last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they had the mic on Bobby Wagner, and it's him, Jayden, and Jeremy Reeves going out for the opening coin toss. The Buccaneers win. They say, "We'd like to receive." Reeves says, "Receives?" Wagner says, "Receive." And Reeves looks at him and says, "Disrespectful." Bobby Wagner goes back to the sideline, repeating to himself, telling everybody who can hear him, "Do you know how disrespectful that is? Do you know how disrespectful it is to want to receive the ball?" Well, how about the team that scored 0 points? They didn't get past the 30-yard line against the winless Carolina Panthers last week. That team chose to receive the ball because they were not scared of this Commanders defense. And what happens? They come out and they march down the field and they completely set the tone. They race out to a 10-0 lead, and that sets the table for a career-defining day by Michael Penix Jr., a reclamation, a revival of this Atlanta Falcons offense. That's my first note here on my Google Doc. You guys can't see it. That's my first note under the game script, and I'm already talking about how the entire game went. Also, very early on in this game, first possession, chance to get off of the field on 3rd down. The Commanders have the #1 3rd down defense in football. Passing play, first real passing play. They threw something to the side. It went nowhere, whatever. It goes down the box score as a pass play. It's really an extension of the run. Their first true downfield pass. Lo and behold, another defensive miscommunication. You've got motion across, Kyle Pitts uncovered, going vertical up the seam. It's a 26-yard completion. That's 3 weeks in a row this has happened to you. There's been motion across. You've got somebody breaking free on a vertical route up the seam. You had it with Tucker Kraft on the 57-yard play against the Packers. You had it with Trey Tucker last week against the Raiders when he got that 60-yard touchdown. And then you have it right here. This is not miscommunication at this point. I mean, it is, but these are things you have talked about. They're things you have worked on in practice. You've repped this, and you're still not executing it. If the Falcons, who just scored 0 points, didn't get to within 10 yards of the red zone in an entire game against the Panthers last week, if they can identify that, and on the first possession of the game, the first third down, they say, let's just press the magic button because that works every time. What does that say about the state of the defense right now? Daron Payne on that first possession popped a fumble out, went right to Michael Penix. It felt like a turnover was never going to come for this defense. Mike Sainristil ended up getting one later in the game. Good job. He caught a pop fly. Penix just, it looked like you were playing soft toss with your 4-year-old kid on the front yard. And you don't want to throw the ball, like actually throw it because you're going to knock them over. It's going to hit them in the face. Their nose is going to bleed and they're going to run in and cry and tell their mother. Penix just tossed it right to him. So Sainristil caught it, sure. But at least the streak is over. The turnover-less streak is over. But it's not like it was a great play by Sainristil, but I guess credit for catching the ball. I don't know. Zone coverage throughout today was just abysmal. The Falcons were doing a good job. They did what they were supposed to. It was nothing extremely innovative. They were kind of just copying the notes of the Packers mostly and a little bit with the Raiders of what worked for them. But it's just a lot of pre-snap motion and horizontal spacing routes, creating conflict for the zone defenders so you stretch them apart, strain their communication, strain their athleticism, their speed, and their instincts covering those zones. And lo and behold, you've got some of the most wide open zones that I've ever seen. Penix had a very good game today, but he had a good game because it was incredibly easy for him to have one. He was throwing to wide open receivers more times than not. He made a couple of good plays, sure, but that also falls on the Commanders. That's blame on the defense. They allowed him to get comfortable early, to connect on some early throws. And with great players, it's like a streaky three-point shooter. It's like J.R. Smith or Klay Thompson or Kyle Korver. You let them make a couple in a row without really guarding them, they're on fire for the rest of the game. And that translates to Michael Penix going for 313 passing yards, the most in his NFL career. 1 week after he went for $170, completed 50% of his passes for no touchdowns and 2 turnovers. Something else that was troubling in this game, as we approach the end of the first half, Dan Quinn, more very poor clock management. Now, against the Packers, the game was not competitive, and this game was competitive, but the Commanders never were taking the lead. In one of these big games, if he's going to manage the clock like this, he will lose the game for the team. And I believe in one of my favorite phrases in life is it's never the right time to do the wrong thing. And I actually did something wrong in one of these previous videos, which I want to take accountability for. Wait for me to get to the 5 names to remember. You will see that happen there. I believe in accountability. And Dan Quinn, this is now a pattern. This is 2 times in 3 weeks. He has grossly mismanaged the clock going into halftime, and it will cost the team later in the year in one of these high leverage games. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about when the Commanders have the ball. They get it at like around, I want to say they got it around the 20 or so. They move it up to the 40. This is within the 2-minute warning. They move it up to about the 40. There's, let's say, about 1:15 on the clock. It's a 2nd and long. You run the ball. It goes for 1 yard, and then you just shut it down. You wait 30, 35 seconds, let the clock run all the way down. Don't run a play. Then you call timeout. So you have instead of using your timeout quick to preserve the clock or keeping the clock running because you don't want the Falcons to get the ball, you've done neither of those. You've given yourself the worst of both worlds. And what did we know? What was the defining quality of the Commanders' offense last year? Aggression, going for it on 4th down, taking chances, taking opportunities. When you've moved the ball 20 yards or so, whatever it was, you've got the 2-minute drive started, you've got 3 timeouts. Just because you run the ball on 2nd and long, which is a questionable decision, but just because you do that and the play doesn't go anywhere, you've still got another 1 and 5 seconds with 3 timeouts. How about let's try to be aggressive? Let's try to close down this lead so it's not 17-10 going into halftime. Maybe it's 17-13. Maybe it's 17-17. No. They said, no, we're good. We don't have to worry about it. We're just going to leave it there. We'll go in down 10 or go down 7 going into halftime. I don't understand any of it. Now, with me saying all this, the Commanders' offense scored 27 points on the road. That's despite being without your number 1 receiver, your number 2 receiver, your number 2 tight end, 2 offensive line changes. Brandon Coleman inactive again today, not just benched, inactive. Despite losing Austin Eckler, despite losing your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, the offense still scored 27 points on the road. The stones on Marcus Mariota to hit that 9 route up the left side for Debo on 4th down to even make this thing close. The offense did enough. It wasn't pretty early on, and part of that was just game flow, clock management. The Commanders only had the ball for 10 minutes of the first 30 minutes in the first half. You got a long drive from the Falcons, then you got a 3-and-out, then you got another long drive. It started very slow, and it felt like they were getting overwhelmed, but the Commanders' offense did enough to win this game. I want to put that out there. This loss falls squarely on the shoulders of the defense. And I'm going to break that down more in just a second. But the fact that an interception didn't change anything, that comes, you get the interceptions, it's a gift, you get a free field goal out of it. And from that point on, you just need one stop because the offense is clicking at this point and you can't get it. The defense just lacks a playmaker. That's the biggest thing about it. It lacks a playmaker, someone to go change the game, someone to bail you out when things aren't going your way, or someone to truly capitalize on the mistake from the offense. They don't have that right now. And so we can talk about certain players messing up coverages. We can talk about Whitt Jr., and we will talk about Whitt Jr. and some of these other players. But there's not the guy out there. The way the offense has Jayden Daniels, the defense does not have that guy. And that is glaringly obvious when you see how some of these games play out. One big play from the defense, a TJ Watt strip sack, a Chris Jones run stuff, a Quinyon Mitchell, a Cooper DeJean interception, break on the play, tackle in open field. It just doesn't happen for the Commanders. And that makes this defense, it limits what they can do, the impact they can have so greatly. Now, some very important and telling stats from this game. The Falcons converted 50% of their third downs. The Commanders were allowing opponents to convert just 28% coming into this game. Meanwhile, the Commanders were 13% on third down. The Falcons got to the red zone 6 times in this game, scored more than 3 points per possession. That is incredibly high. That's more than the Bills had last year, and they led the league in that category. And then the time of possession mismatch, I already talked about that. Now, a couple more nuanced details before we get into the 5 names to remember, starting with the Commanders' offense. What really shook me up in the worst way imaginable, the receiver room should have looked awful. The offensive line had reason to be bad, from benching Allegretti and benching Coleman, who were supposed to be your 2 starters, and not having Sam Cosmi, obviously. Those 2 units were supposed to be / it would be understandable if they were bad. Because of that, it would be understandable if Marcus Mariota was bad. And because of that, it would be understandable if the running game was bad. If the defense could just key in on the running game, say they've got nothing going for them. Offensive line can't block, receivers can't catch, Mariota doesn't have anywhere to go with the ball, then we just got to defend against the run. Despite that, I got no complaints about the offense. Could a couple of things have gone better? Sure. Do I wish Mariota didn't throw the interception? Yes. I think he might have thought it was a free play because there was an illegal shift and a penalty flag went up. I don't know for sure. I would need to hear from him on that. But even if that wasn't the case, he still did his thing. He did well for a backup quarterback. I say this about backups. Mariota didn't look as great as he did in the past, and that's because he's not going to perform at his top level game to game. But Mariota was not bad. You got big runs from Chris Rodriguez. You got big runs from Bill Krosky-Merritt. You had those plays. It was the defense that let them down. Now, with me saying that, I am confused by the usage once again. Bill didn't get a carry until 7:34 in the second quarter. Why? And why does it feel like players will get an explosive play? You'll get an explosive run from C-Rod, and then he goes out of the game. Or you get a big gain from Bill, and then it's C-Rod's turn. Or we're throwing the ball. Or we're bringing in Jeremy McNichols. I just don't understand it. The Commanders in this game averaged 6.7 yards per carry. So they were doing a great job. I mean, C-Rod had a 48-yarder. Bill had a couple of 10+. It feels like everything's there for them to be had. Here's a fun fact for you. For anybody who still might be holding on to the Brian Robinson Jr., anybody in that crowd who's still holding on, did you know that Bill Krosky-Merritt, Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Jeremy McNichols, in their first 2 games of the season, because C-Rod was inactive for the first 2, in their first 2 games of the season, they beat Brian Robinson Jr.'s career long. Did you know that? Now, McNichols, it happened in his 3rd game, but I believe he didn't get a carry against the Packers. That's why I say that. If he did, I'm wrong, but it's still the first 3 games. Bottom line is we're a month into the season, and C-Rod, Bill, and McNichols have all eclipsed Brian Robinson Jr.'s career long. So clearly the explosiveness is there. Why are we not putting this game in their hands more times than not? It's confusing to me. And the offense still played well, like I said, but I felt like they could have controlled the flow of the game a little bit more if they did that. Now, the Commanders' defense. The defensive line played well in a certain way. I want to say that. They were battling. They were maintaining gap integrity. They held contain on Penix. Penix isn't much of a runner, but they held contain. They held the Falcons with Bijan and Tyler Algier. They held them to 3.7 yards per carry, which is incredibly impressive. And considering how bad some of the tackling was, it kind of blew my mind to see that number was that low. But it really just does reinforce to me how good of a job they did. If you need further proof of that, in this game, the Falcons averaged negative 0.1 yards before contact per carry. So on an average play, the Falcons were getting hit in the backfield. So the defensive line was battling. But like I said, the tackling was so bad. On Bijan's touchdown run, Quan Martin gave one of the most pathetic efforts that you will ever see. Jeremy Reeves is trying to punch the ball out instead of wrapping up and tackling. And you've got like 3 or 4 guys, Bobby Wagner, a couple of others, just standing around and watching it happen. Now, that's just the running game. The pass game, this is where it really gets bad. The Falcons averaged 15.7 yards per completion in this game, 11.6 yards per attempt. I would have to check, but it would not surprise me if that led the league because that is a very high number. The Falcons' EPA per pass play, which basically means how did they do relative to the average for where the ball was? If it's a 2nd and 8 on the 30-yard line, what happens here? Their EPA per pass play was in the 98th percentile. I'm tired of seeing the Commanders running match coverage. I'm tired of them seeing them run man coverage and exposing their own lack of speed in the middle of the field. That 69-yard pitch and catch to Bijan Robinson, which was just a very simple swing pass to the outside. All it was a mesh rail concept, which is incredibly simple. You've got 2 players on the right. They're coming across, so the whoever's guarding them, the members of the secondary, they're following them because you're playing match coverage. You have another crosser coming from the left side, but you've also got Bijan leaking out on a swing to the right side. And because it's match, Bobby's got to get out there. That's his man, and he's responsible for carrying him vertically. Penix throws the rail to Bijan, and it's just open space. And it's Bijan in a straight line for the end zone or Bobby Wagner trying to take an angle at 48 years old, and he obviously, predictably, cannot get to him. Something I preached all of last week, the entirety of the week, was you need speed. And I campaigned for Mike Sainristil, and I campaigned for Jordan McGee. Where is he, by the way? Where I heard Dan Quinn, I remember him saying, quote, he is just an awesome linebacker. I heard Joe Whitt Jr. say he was the most impressive player of training camp. Where are they? Where is he? Where was Sainristil? Where was McGee? Where was Kane Medrano? Where was anybody with 2 working hamstrings? Bobby Wagner is one of the best linebackers of all time. He cannot cover Bijan Robinson vertically at 35 years old. That is not it shouldn't be his responsibility. It shouldn't be a thought. It should not come up in the defensive game planning. Take it out. This is 3 weeks in a row where Bobby Wagner has gotten exposed with his lack of speed in match or man coverage. You had where he had to carry Tucker Kraft vertically on that 57-yard play against the Packers. You had it with Trey Tucker on the crossing route in the red zone against the Raiders. And you had it here with Bijan. How many more examples do you need? I'm talking to the coaching staff. How many more examples do we need? And I'm not even really mad at Bobby Wagner because he's 35 years old. He should not be asked to do this. If you asked me, if we went to the gym together and you dropped a 405-pound bench on my chest and told me to move it, guess what? I'm suing you for assault because I'm not getting it off. You shouldn't be asking me to do that. You don't ask Shaquille O'Neal to take the game-winning three-pointer. So why are we asking Bobby Wagner to run vertically with Bijan Robinson? This was the easiest thing to game plan for all week long. And I'm not trying to say, listen to me close. I'm an armchair analyst. I get it. Okay. I'm not on the NFL. I'm not on the NFL coaching staff. It's so much more difficult than I could possibly imagine. You're right. I'm not disputing any of that. That's why I get frustrated when it's the easy things that go wrong. Remember when I said it was so predictable in that Packers game, what was going to happen? Let's at least just run the ball a little, and let's make sure we get Bill involved. And who at that point, it was Eckler and McNichols. But let's not just run it up the middle against or with Eckler against that front line, and let's not make Jayden throw it on every down. Remember how I said it was so easy to tell that was going to happen? You were going to get him in second and long, third and long. The Packers were going to pin their ears back and go get him. Lo and behold, what happened? It was so easy to say you have a lack of speed in the middle of the field with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. Don't put them in compromising positions against the speed of the Falcons, specifically Bijan Robinson. So I'm just disappointed. That's the thing I'll walk away from in this game, because it should have been the offense that let this team down. And it couldn't be further from it. It was the defense. And with that in mind, let's transition to the 5 names to remember. New edit. Not new. Actually, it's been here for a couple of weeks, but changing screens, basically. As a quick reminder, everybody, the 5 names to remember. 5 players, coaches, whoever's that stuck out for different reasons. Now, for example, John Kinlaw, I thought he had a nice game. I thought Bill and C-Rod had solid games. Thought the offensive line did a good job. They only gave up 6 total pressures in this game. I want to say 2 were Wiley, 1 for Connerly, 1 for Biotish, and 1 for Chris Paul. Bill gave up a pressure as well, but obviously that's not the offensive line. Thought some players had good games. If I don't mention you, it's not because you didn't play a part in this, but we have 4 different classifications. We have red for terrible, horrible, lost us the game, I'm over it. Yellow for that was bad, I'm disappointed, and we're on thin ice here. Green for kudos, nice job today. And dark green for a game ball. We do not have a game ball to give out. We rarely ever get them in losses. I think we had one in a preseason loss. I want to say it was Josh Connerly. But aside from that, you're rarely going to get them, and we're not getting one today. And because we were just talking about defense, and I'm making this transition, we're going to start off with a yellow for Joe Whitt Jr. This could be a red. And in some ways, I really want it to be. The reason that I'm keeping it at a yellow is because I recognize some of the decisions that were made by the front office. And this is not me retroactively blaming Adam Peters, because when you turn a team from 4-13 to 12-5, when you get to the NFC Championship game, you've done a nice job, to put it mildly. But there were choices that were made, and those have not worked out. For example, the Marshon Lattimore trade has not worked out. Some of these draft selections have not worked out. You invested money in Dietrich Wise, he's out for the season. You invested money in Will Harris, he's got a broken leg. I can't put everything on Joe Whitt Jr. With that out of the way, with that PR exercise out of the way, coordinators and coaches in the NFL are all geniuses. So when they go against one another, the playing field is leveled. Today, Zach Robinson of the Falcons looked like a genius. Matt LaFleur looked like a genius. And I've not seen Joe Whitt Jr. look like a genius one time in his Commander's career. What does that tell me? When he's matched up against the other elite minds in the NFL, because Joe Whitt Jr. is an elite mind, don't get that twisted. But when I see him matched up, he doesn't have a counterpunch. He doesn't have a changeup. His game plan doesn't work. It worked against the Giants when they had no offense. Worked against the Raiders when they couldn't block and they had no offense. Although Geno Smith, who's already thrown 2 interceptions in the 30 minutes between the time that I actually pressed record on this video and kickoff in that game, he's had 30 minutes against the Bears. He's already thrown 2 interceptions. He had 3 going into the game against the Commanders. And then when they play, he goes for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Take that out of consideration. Just Joe Whitt Jr. I'm tired of match coverage and man coverage with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. I'm not a genius. Heck, I don't know 10% of football you do. But I know enough to tell you that's the wrong decision. Stop putting slow players in space against fast players. Also, when you constantly tell me the ball is life, we need to produce the ball. Sainristil got one today. It went right to him. The other moments in the game, create some turnovers. Back up what you are preaching to me. The reason that I really want to make this a red box for Joe Whitt Jr., and I just want to say I'm done with it. If I don't see certain members of this defense benched, cut, or at least have their snaps reduced, then I'm assigning blame to you. If the players continue to underperform, but you're not changing anything with their situations, what you are telling me is they are there because they are the best option. They're doing what you asked them to do, and they're just not making it happen. And that comes back to you. You're not coaching them right. You're not calling the right plays. You're not communicating effectively, whatever it is. All these miscommunications out on the field, I'm tired of seeing it every week. I haven't looked at the numbers. I would bet the Commanders' defense, as far as explosive rate allowed, is one of the highest in the NFL. So I can blame the players. I can blame Adam Peters for not trading 7 first-round picks to go get Myles Garrett and Michael Parsons and whoever the heck else you want. But I'm tired of the big plays. I'm tired of your defense not living up to the mindset that you have created. Where's the run and hit style? Throw that out the window. No, let's slug along. Again, not trying to pick on Bobby Wagner because nobody should expect a 35-year-old to run with Bijan, who's 23 in space. Bijan, by the way, hit a career high. Thanks to Next Gen Stats, Bijan hit a career high in top speed on that run. What's the point of praising Jordan McGee if we can't get him out there in those situations? I don't get it. I'm going to leave it at a yellow for Whitt Jr., but it's trouble. Bobby Wagner, yellow. Really want to keep this brief because Bobby, when he's doing things that he's capable of doing, that he should be doing, he's still elite at what he does. He had 2 sacks last week. He had a phenomenal game. He's actually the only player through the first 3 weeks of the season, and now through 4, actually, because I know who's coming up next. He's the only player through the first 4 weeks of the season to get 2 green boxes. So Bobby Wagner's still playing well, and he's playing at a very high level when he's doing what he's supposed to, middle of the field stuff, stuffing the run. But he's just too slow. He's just at that stage in his career where he's just too slow. I feel that way about Von Miller. There's a couple other guys, but the Commanders' speed, when you see the horizontal stretch the Falcons and the Packers are putting on teams and the Commanders' defense, it's just not working. So I don't have too much to say here. He's not doing anything wrong. It's just a yellow for Bobby because this team is limited. They don't have speed in the middle of the field. And let's think about who are the best defenses in the NFL. The Eagles and how about the Packers? They have the fastest linebackers in the NFL. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. I'm going to say probably not. We're going to get a green box here. A little bit more positive mood for Luke McCaffrey. Congratulations, Luke. You answered the bell. One thing I noticed, I always like to say the coaches will tell you what they think of you without actually having to say it. Luke McCaffrey was on the field well before Jaylin Lane was. With Terry McLaurin out, with Noah Brown out, Luke was one of the first guys out there. So the coaching staff wanted to give him the opportunities. They felt that he had earned it. He had some nice blocking moments. He had 3 catches today. One was called back for a push-off, which it was, but you know what? I like it. More reps for Luke. He ended up catching the ball on that play. Caught the touchdown, 5-yarder in the back middle of the end zone from Marcus Mariota. Waited to kind of uncover. Mariota found him. He also had a nice 16-yard catch, I want to say. And then he returned 6 kicks for 199 yards, which is 33.2 yards per kick return, had a long of 58. It felt like he was battling. Early on in the game, it felt like very few Commanders were battling, and it felt like he was the one who was really trying to make those momentum-churning plays, whether it was the touchdown. And then I want to say the 58-yarder came in the second quarter when the Commanders were down 17-7. So hat tip to Luke. Again, I talked about it already, but if there's one room that should have really felt helpless, it should have been the receiver room. And honestly, I didn't notice it at all. Yeah, Chris Moore dropped a pass. Maybe you were missing a little bit of explosiveness in the passing game, but I really didn't feel like the receivers let the team down at all in this game. I felt like they were actually one of the better rooms today. Them, the offensive line, the running backs, and Mariota, not brilliant, but all right. They all did fine. And Luke, I thought, was one of the key players in that group. So shout out to Luke McCaffrey. Deservingly gets a green box from me today. Now we've got a red. And kind of like I said with Bobby Wagner, there's not a whole lot to say here. Marshon Lattimore's Commander's career needs to be over. You tried. You simply had to make a trade in the middle of last season because you knew what kind of season you were having. You saw the runway, the magic moments with the fourth quarter comebacks, the quarterback, the coaching staff. It was all in place. But you weren't going to get to where you wanted to go with Michael Davis and Benjamin St-Juste in your secondary room. So you had to trade for Marshon Lattimore. I get it. You had to do it. It hasn't worked out. It's not going to. He's healthy. We know that injuries were the talk of why he wasn't playing well last year. He's healthy now. He's not playing well. He might be playing even worse. It is incredibly telling that every time a team needs a completion, they say, go find Marshon Lattimore. And I'm not taking away from the player Marshon Lattimore was, because he was phenomenal this first few years in the league. But right now, at 29 years old, however old he is, he's already washed. He's washed like Bounty, like the Giant store brand, the Kroger store brand, whatever you get it from. He's washed like a car on a hot summer day. Get the extra wax, pay the $18 per a session, get the high school kids with the fundraiser to come out and wash your car, whatever you want to say. It's over. He's done. Teams are targeting him. Late in the game, you saw his motion issues pop back up again. The zone coverage is soft. He'll play the run aggressively, but he's not really stopping anything. It's over. Tariq Woolen apparently is maybe going to be made available by the Seahawks because they've suddenly got a stuffed cornerback room they didn't expect to have. You can't keep trading for everybody because you're trading players and future investments with draft picks. I get all of that, but Adam Peters, you got to be on the phone, man. Because if this season is still salvageable, we'll see what happens on the road against the Chargers. If the Commanders win that game, if Jayden comes back looking fine, there's still a path here to be competitive, but you're going to hit a ceiling with Lattimore on the team and playing as a starter. So it's over. Red box for Marshon Lattimore. And our final one today, we're going to get a yellow for Mike Sainristil, who I heard from numerous coaches, players, reporters, was the best defensive player at camp this summer. He's been bad. He's been really bad this year. Had a good first game against the Giants. Since then, he has given up 15 catches for 155 yards and a touchdown. In today's game, 4 receptions for 49 yards allowed. I think what you need to do is you need to move him back outside. And I know all we talked about last season was wait till Mikey gets back to his natural position. Well, he's in his natural position now, and I'm not feeling the impact. His ball skills, the instincts, they haven't shown up. He got a pick today, went right to him. I don't want anybody to use that to justify him having a good game today. He did not. He was bad today. And he's been bad for most of the season. You got to put him back outside because I actually felt like he was a little more comfortable covering out there. Bench Lattimore, get Noah Igbenogany in the slot, and Lattimore becomes your dime corner. Or maybe you bring in another safety and they play dime with you. I don't know what you want to do, but movement needs to happen. And maybe it is trading for Tariq Woolen. I don't know who this team's going to draft in the first round next year. I don't know if it's going to be a receiver because it absolutely needs to be. But then again, it absolutely needs to be an edge rusher. But then again, it absolutely needs to be a linebacker. And then again, it absolutely needs to be a cornerback. I don't know where you're going with this, but Sainristil, it's not been good so far. Trey Amos had his worst game as a Commander. Still felt like he was the best member of the secondary. Quan Martin is lucky to escape here. He was really bad today. He was really bad against the Packers. He had a couple questionable moments against the Raiders. I'm worried about him too. So like I started off this video by saying it's too early to panic, but it's not too early to tell the truth. And there are some ugly truths that exist with this team, and they need to be put out there into the light for everybody to hear. But guys, that is going to do it for my official game recap, the 5 Names to Remember series. Week 4, Commanders 27, Falcons 34. Make sure you hit the like button if you did enjoy this video. Hit the subscribe button if you are a new viewer as well. Go to the comment section. Leave me your thoughts on everything I said in this video, what happened in the game. And as I always say, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.